In this video you should pay close attention because what I am going to tell you are deeper details about the power of the Power Rangers. Before the existence of the universe, there were the Morphin Masters, who after the birth of the universe created a trio of emissaries with the light of a star to act as their representatives to mortals. These emissaries had the appearance of rangers, one red, one yellow, and one blue. The Morphin Masters are a civilization dedicated to studying the Morphin Grid. The Morphin Masters we know of so far are the ones who preside over this civilization. All members of this civilization, including the Morphin Masters who preside over it, possess a crystal called Morphin Heart and live near Master Forges that are located throughout the galaxy. Each one has an arc called Master Arcs which allow you to travel and connect to the Morphin Grid, in addition to being able to travel between different dimensions to travel long distances. Since the beginning of Power Rangers, they talk about the Morphin Grid, but almost never explain what it really is. The Morphin Grid is a multiversal energy field for all Power Rangers and is the largest source of energy for all teams anywhere in the universe. It was first mentioned in the 4th episode of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It was originally assumed and later shown to provide all Rangers with a specific link to the grid. The Rangers access that link using morphers, in which their cellular composition is instantly entered into the grid. In simpler words, the Morphin Grid is like a spatial internet which you not only access with a computer as we would do with the internet, but your cells connect to this grid, so you are part of the grid and each Ranger has a power that lives within each of them. Like the internet, the Morphin Grid allows you to travel long distances. This includes any part of the multiverse and time travel. With the internet we can send messages instantly to any part of the world, but with the Morphin Grid you can send your body to any part of the universe and to any dimension of the multiverse, including different eras. This is why in the later episodes of the comics the villains were able to travel to different dimensions and times to infect the grid. Due to the great connection that the Morphin Masters have with the Morphin Grid, they have been the creators of several power sources for Power Rangers equipment such as the Ninja Nexus Prism, which gave power to the Ninja Steel Rangers which we saw in the first season of Power Rangers Dino Fury. They also created the Dino Gems that empowered the Dino Rangers, as well as the Energems for the Dino Charge Rangers. We know that the power coins used by the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers were created by Ninja, but Ninja had books written by the Morphin Masters inside his temple, which may explain how he was able to create them. The Morphin Masters not only created power sources, but taught other masters how to create them as we saw with Ninja. Although in Power Rangers Dino Fury we are introduced to only 6 Morph Masters, which include red, green, yellow, black, blue and pink, there are also other Morph Masters. One of those masters is Preder, who lost his mind and became a possible villain after self-exiling himself to a place called the Void. This place was created after a hard battle won by the Morphin Masters against a villain using a Zeo Crystal. Due to the power of the Zeo Crystal, the Masters decided to look where this power came from, until they found a planet that was completely made of Zeo Crystal. After a long deliberation they decided to separate from the Morphin Grid that entire universe where this Zeo Crystal planet was, and this caused the condemnation of this universe to extinction since everything in this universe was going to be extinguished little by little. In the Void, no Ranger can access his powers due to the separation of the Morphin Grid that exists in this universe, although in the last episodes of the comics we could see how the Rangers managed to connect again. Because of all this, the Morphin Master Preder volunteered to stay in this universe, the Void, to continue to ensure that this universe continues outside the Morphin Grid. And even though Preder is one of the most powerful beings with the strongest psyche, he still lost his mind and started attacking everyone. Continuing with the Morphin Masters, Zordon refers to them as a group of ancient sorcerers who threw the chest containing eggs of power into the sea millions of years ago, possibly the same eggs we saw in the last comics. The sorcerers hid a universe of power inside two mythical eggs which they threw into the sea. In the Power Rangers Dino Fury series, we met the Morphin Masters at the beginning of the saga after the destruction of the planet Rafkon and the Sporix and the Knights travel to Earth. The Masters appear to connect the Knights to the Morphin Grid and combine the essence of the dinosaurs inside them, creating the Power Rangers Dino Fury to defeat the Sporix monsters and return them to their natural form. In all the Dino Fury series we could see the Morphin Masters in different moments, and we realized that they were present in all the events that have happened with all the Power Rangers teams. In the last season called Cosmic Fury, we could see that the Morphin Masters have a very important role even though they did not appear so much time. In this season we could see that the villains were able to lock up the Morphin Masters to take away all their power and use it as a powerful energy source. The concentrated power of all these Morphin Masters was so great that it made Master Zed such a powerful villain that he was able to destroy very strong Zords as if he were toys. These acts called into question the power of the Morphin Masters, as it was quite easy to catch them despite being such powerful beings. Obviously, this could simply have been a change in the script without thinking of respecting the whole history of these Morphin Masters, although this idea is supported by one of the last comics we saw with Ranger Slayer. In this other story, Kimberly tried to find the Morphin Masters to help the Rangers defeat the infection the Grid was suffering, but by the time she found them, the Morphin Masters had gone crazy. Another important thing we saw in the Cosmic Fury season is that one of the Rangers managed to become a Morphin Master, and this had never happened in the entire history of Power Rangers. Previously the Red Ranger had sacrificed himself to save the Earth, and somehow the Morphin Masters brought him back to life using the energy of the Grid. This was a temporary thing, but by the end of the season we saw this Ranger become a Morphin Master despite not having the same knowledge about the Grid that the other Masters have. This also called a lot of things into question, as it makes us think that Morphin Masters can be chosen, although we don't know if they choose them themselves or if they are chosen by the Grid. In short, the Morphin Masters are multidimensional beings who are believed to have existed before the creation of the universe as we know it, but we know for certain that they have been with us for over 65 million years thanks to the events of Dino Fury. These Masters study and manage the Morphin Grid, which is the power source of all Power Rangers throughout the multiverse, time and space. This grid that connects to the cells of the Rangers allows them to gain great power as well as travel throughout the universe. In simple words, the Morph Masters are like the gods and creators of the Power Rangers. The story we know of the Phantom Ranger is the one we have seen on television, but his story goes beyond that and begins billions of years ago. This time is not the age of the Phantom Ranger since he comes from the past, and we will understand this later. Billions of years ago there was a village that studied the Morphin Grid and called themselves Morphin Masters. One of its members was the Phantom Ranger, which at that time was called Morphinaut, and his suit was white with some gold details. He was dedicated to study the Morphin Grid like many others, but his studies were deeper and with very different theories. Many people thought he was crazy and that his theories were only dreams and lies. After many years of research, Morphinaut invented a door that connected to the Morphin Grid, since his theory was that inside the Morphin Grid there was a dimensional space. Basically, in simpler words, there was another universe inside the Morphin Grid. These gates are called Master Forge, and currently there are very few left since the civilization of the Morphin Masters lived, Planet 0117, which is now Earth. There were several, but they were destroyed. He was doing this experiment with his friend Chendal, a young man who helped him enter the Morphin Grid, even though the Morphinaut did not want help from anyone. When the Morphinaut entered that new dimensional universe of the Morphin Grid, he began to feel all that power and energy, but at the same time he began to feel an evil presence. Inside that place was an evil presence called Dark Spectre, which is the opposite energy to the energy of the Morphin Grid. It has always been said that where there is positive energy, there is also negative energy, and Dark Spectre is the negative energy of the Morphin Grid. This negative energy wanted to leave the Morphin Grid because outside that universe it could be stronger, and because of this the Morphinaut asked Chendal to close the door, but he was unable to do so. Because of this, the Morphinaut sacrificed himself and detonated a bomb to destroy the door, but some of the negative energy had already left the Morphin Grid. This negative energy invaded Chendal's body and gradually turned him into a monster, which became the leader of Dark Spectre's army. After 584 years, the people of the planet were still investigating this gate that the Morphinaut had invented, although they had already built several gates in that world. The planet began to be invaded by the army of Dark Spectre, which began to destroy all the Master Forges. All the Morphin Masters of each city began to enter the Morphin Grid through these doors in order to be safe from the invasion, but the army arrived so fast that sometimes they did not have time to enter all of them, and those who remained outside became part of the evil army. Several friends who were visiting the laboratory where the Master Forge that had been invented by the Morphinaut was located, they were trying to escape by entering through the Master Forge of their city, since the one in the laboratory was not working because of the explosion. At that moment, someone came out of the door. It was the Morphinaut returning after 584 years inside the Morphin Grid, which had an overload of morphin energy and had to share it with those friends in the lab. The Morphin Masters had a crystal heart in their chest, which was able to control the power of the Morphin Grid, but this power was killing them, so they had to invent something to control that power. That's when the Morphers started. With these new Morphers they were able to control the power and transform properly, and formed the Squadron Rangers. These Rangers helped the Morphinaut battle against Dark Spectre's army and helped free their friend Chendal, who vanished after removing all the negative energy. After this, Dark Spectre began to corrupt the minds of the Rangers, who began to argue among themselves, but the Morphinaut absorbed all the negative energy and allowed Dark Spectre to use his body as a vessel. Because of this, the Morphinaut's white armor turned to black and the gold parts turned to gray. The Rangers made the ultimate sacrifice and broke their Morphers so that all the energy of the Morphin Grid covered the entire planet and drove Dark Spectre away from the Morphinaut and the last Master Forge. Without realizing it, the Rangers became the new emissaries, who were not dead, but they were not alive either and now had a greater purpose. At that point, one of the emissaries told the Morphinaut that his purpose had also changed, and he was needed in the future, so he sent him billions of years into the future. The Morphinaut arrived on planet Elter and was greeted by Zordon, who at that time was one of the leading warriors of that planet. The Morphinaut changed his name and introduced himself to Zordon as Phantom Ranger, as he felt he was only a ghost of his true identity. From that moment on, the Phantom Ranger began to follow the missions given to him by Zordon, and one of those missions was to rescue Rita and her mother Lady Fiena. At that time, Rita was a child and her mother wanted to take her to a master forge to fill her with the energy of the Morphin Grid so that Dark Spectre could not use her as a vessel. Rita's father, Master Vil, arrived after the energy was inside Rita, yet he killed Lady Fienna and defeated the Phantom Ranger. He then kidnapped Rita to raise her on the side of evil, even though he could no longer give her to Dark Spectre. Thousands of years later, the Phantom Ranger arrived on Earth and helped the Turbo Rangers against Demigods. He also helped Zordon when he was captured. If you like Morphin Masters, like this video, and subscribe to be the next Power Rangers Phantom Ranger.